we're going to introduce the work of Michael Fortune and Aileen Lambert. Michael and Aileen, based in County Wexford, are, I would say, two of the most innovative project organisers that are working across community arts in Ireland. Their work ranges from dressers to folklore to dance to song to getting people talking, and then to record it all in a very sensitive way. And Mick's going to talk about his work. I've been involved with them as a participant in some of their song projects particularly. So they've done ones where they've asked people to compose new songs in the tradition. They're doing the child ballad, which was pairing up a man and a woman to sing a child ballad. And Jim McFarlane's My Man, so just let you know, for this project. And they've been working with groups like Age Opportunity, and bringing lots of generations together to sing and to take part and do things. So their work is really, really important, and it's great crack as well. They've been involved in the work of the Irish Traditional Music Archive, and we've also supported their work, and they've brought people using the song and music resources in the archive with their projects, and the same with the National Library in Ireland. So they've been doing a lot about bringing people to places to learn lots of new things about songs, and bringing people to the archives and to libraries that we need to know about. So, anyway, without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Mick Fortune, and he's going to get the morning going, and he's going to introduce just some of his work before we get into the children. All right?
What do I do? Like myself and Aileen were both I'm from the coast, she's from the mountains, and in Wexford, up in North Wexford. We both lived in Limerick, through an art college background, but I always had an interest in story, I suppose, and the ordinary, the everyday. That's always something that's driven me. Coming from it's a farm labouring background, kind of a poor background in North Wexford, kind of, I suppose, financially poor, I suppose, but rich in loads of culturally very rich, you know, and a part of the country that actually gets overlooked as well. And you become very aware of that when you go to the likes of living in Galway or likes of living in Limerick. You kind of realise, hang on there, we've got something special here, just the same as any other. We kind of believe it somewhere else, you know, that kind of way. And people in Wexford believe it somewhere else. I don't know why, for whatever reason, we kind of believe that. But there's a lovely richness there, and I've always tapped into that. So we do loads, and Aileen's the same, but she's kind of more of a traditional music background. Her father's a piper. So, but we've always been aware of that. And you train as an artist, but our kind of interest was the ordinary, the everyday Irish people, the culture that's around us, working with what we have, and about, I suppose, rejoicing what we have and reframing and representing what we have, and all the contradictions to go with that, right? So we do loads of project work. We do project work with young people, we do project with older people, we do intergenerational projects, right? So what I want to do is I want to show you, before we even come to the song stuff, the way we think, right? So you get a sense of the way we think, and I'm sure you connect. Like, I've worked up here before. I worked up in Letterkenny a couple of years ago. We did fake paper stories in Letterkenny, and I worked up around Remelton and all as well a couple of years ago as well, and in Derry as well. So, but I'm gonna show you stuff. Is it all okay if I carry on for 20 minutes? Yeah. Don't be afraid to tell me to stop, right? That's always the problem, right? This is my mother, by the way. Look, there she is. Every year my mother gets dressed up, calls to my granny's house next door, fools her, gets a few pence, goes home again. We call it wizard night in Wexford, it's an old term for a vice or a wizard, that's what we call it. And it's about the fool of people going back to someone's house and dancing and singing and doing this recitation and getting a few pence and leave. And my poor old granny never knew it was my mother. And my mother had been doing it all her life. So there she's up the road getting dressed up, you know. It's like the moment tradition of getting Newfoundland dressing up, whatever you get, now hunchback or now stop and shoulder back, whatever, or stockings over your hands. And I'd always interested in the stories, things that happen to neighbours at home, men getting lost in the fields, you know the usual kind of stuff, where the bow was seen, we call the banshee the bow in Wexford, you know, making with a raheen, getting bad luck, all the usual stories that are repeated all over the country, getting whatever. So I recorded her one year, and I went back about 6 months later, and she told the same stories which she told to a different sister. And to me, I recorded her 6 times around the kitchen table, and every time the story, and I found this when I'm recording stuff, they're like songs or tunes, whatever. A story is like, there was a man went into a field and sure he got lost in the field, he went round and round, he couldn't get out of the field, he took his jacket off. But it's the same structure if you recorded someone in West Waterford, say, it'd be 55 seconds length. If you recorded someone in North Hick, probably the same, you know. So in some ways, those stories, but these are not big archaic John McCool stories. These are just stories about something that happened to someone locally, whatever. But they are repeated around the country, and to me, that's my connection to story and to rhythm and to pace. And that's there too. So that was just that little thing I did on video. I always record the other thing as well. For me, I like bringing things alive. And one thing whenever I found with story and folklore, it was put on books. And you lost the person's accent, you lost what the person looked like, you lost the human of the story, right? Now it's okay in song, it's there, but when you're dealing with stories and people collecting stuff in a folklore tradition, they're kind of they're removing people from it. And I've always this thing about not removing people. So we would do collections on film. All these tools, people said no one had ever talked to you for camera. And I said, that's not right, you know, it's bullshit. Like, we've got the right attitude, something will happen, right? So we would do collections. Collections with different people that ask you to do a project up in Mayo or Tipperary or Wexford, and you record people in pairs, sometimes even with bigger cameras in daycare centres and nursing homes, and you produce collections on DVD, and you do screenings back in the local hall. And the screenings are, they go against the conventions of what a screening is, because people are poking each other on the side and they're laughing, and they're, someone down the road got cancer or they died from medullary rahim, but people are kind of poking themselves laughing at it, you know. So all these rules are turned on their head that don't make sense, you know. But, and other people, academics, are looking at it kind of wondering really what's being said, but there's something else being said, you know. So we do screenings like that. And I'm going to show you the sample of that kind of material. And you'd always do a launch. And you'd always have, then you produce DVDs and give them back locally. And now we're beginning to put stuff up online and make it accessible for just getting around to doing it. But that comes back to the way we think when we do these projects here. It's about kind of, there's a full circle going on, the way we operate, whatever. And I'm going to show you, and I've a little sample of varieties we can do. This would be a little sample from, here we go, a little sample from Offaly in Mayo. And again, I kind of love that superstition and belief that people have, right? But there's also the human aspect to it. Hang on. This is about 3 minutes long, right?
And another thing is, you know, I said after New Year's, you know, after Christmas, New Year's Day, there were some people that would want to move their protection to the house. Oh, to be a black hair man, to be man. I don't want red hair woman. Red hair woman. And if you're a red hair woman, red hair man, you're a woman. You have a look. You turn back from the fair, you know, the one that's, you're up at 6 o'clock in the morning and you met the red hair woman, trying to get you back. That's right.
You wrote the Bargains and the beheaders and everything like that. Yeah. One minute to be smooth as everything we got. Then this push should come. And to say that was the first cross. Yeah. That's very cross. Very cross. Yeah, that's the very cross the header. And you're never supposed to cross it passage. It's a dangerous.
You know, the open fire is another thing. If the coal fell backwards, that was a visitor coming. Yeah, that's the fire kind of sparkled out and you said there were money coming to you. Money outside. Money? I heard. There was 5 2 put into it, which wasn't good. And some people hated a frog coming into the house. Other people hated the sign of death. Is it? Yeah. Or a robin. When a robin, I don't remember it was a frog.
It was a cock crow 3 times.
That
was pretty. So that's what we're saying. We're trying to hear cock 3 times. Remember in our heart that there's a person in the way out. There's some terrible yarns years ago, and what we were all innocent. We can't book it in. We're really studying about, but nowadays the young people would be fond of things like that.
Yeah, I know another thing, like I couldn't tell you this all this, but if you come over into the wall, I'll say this, you try to happen. Is it a pair in the shoes or a pair in instructions for the bamboozle? Did you hear that? What's a bamboozle? Oh, because the reason one comes in and bring out chickens in summertime. Is that good? And she's probably... Oh, did you ever hear of Fuji Mara? I'll tell you now. This happened to myself. There's different tellings up here in Mayo than at home. But it's supposed to be, it's a it's a thing in the field. You can, now I could see the light of my own house and their house, but I still couldn't get to the side where I wanted to get out. I was going round and I'd be in that corner and that corner. But I had always heard that if I turned whatever I had on the inside out, but once I had turned the inside out, I found the side, no problem. But that is true.
White thorn bush is supposed to be very unlucky. It has to touch it even. And if you touch a white thorn bush, you never know for the rest of your days. It can happen, and I suppose that it does happen. We mightn't think it, but when you look back and hear stories from people, you have to believe them. That kind of way. Definitely. Yeah. I get stiff when I sit down. That was great. That was very nice.
That was just 4 minutes from hours of different collections, right? And again, for me, it's full of contradictions. Just Ireland, we're all full of contradictions, right? 1 minute you're going to tell the truth, next minute you're going to wink it outside your eye there. Yeah, right? So, and that's whatever. That's that kind of lovely, rich area. Don't be afraid to ask any questions. I never, by the way, I never have my voice in these things as well. I don't want my voice in them because the things will actually do their own natural narrative, you know, that kind of way. And here's the funny thing as well. Back in 2004, myself and Aileen, we lived in Limerick, and we did a lovely project in my Ross and down in the island, St Mary's, with 50 schools, different schools. Again on film, and we recorded another collection of maybe 1,000 DVDs. I've none of them left actually, by the way, we gave them all away. But one of the main stories was that the Banshee lived in the handball alley, right? And the Banshee lived in the handball alley, and if you touch the four corners, the Banshee would come out and kill you or go straight through you, you know, kind of way. So obviously, like with stories are invented to keep the chaps away, because there's lads out there on drugs and drinking, so obviously the parents of the stories that the Banshee lived there. And in all these stories about the Bishop's Lady and the rail, you know, whatever your environment is, there's going to be stories around it, right? And all the young lads have a great sense, the rural sensibility in the stories as well. They're the same kind of Banshee stories or fairy stories or good luck stories you'd get in County Limerick or County Clare or County Tipperary or what's why. And they're also really good liars. So I tell them a version of the story from Wexford, and 3 weeks later they tell me the same version back, and I was going, but lads, I told you that. So no, my uncle told me that. You're allowed with that, so there's no rules, right? So we actually did a screen, and rather than going to a gallery for it, we did a screen and actually in the handball alley in March 2005, and we got all the kids and freaking love coming and seeing themselves, you know, right? And I'll show you, we did a DVD as well. I'm going to show you a little tiny bit of that. And again, just to show you that that tradition, whatever, it's still like with chaps as well, you know, that kind of way. There's new influences, they're mixing Derby or Guild, little people, they're mixing home and away, they're lying at home, but it's still there, you know, that kind of way. And they're really, you know, they're just lovely chaps as well. This is 10 years ago now. Again on film.
There's a Banshee around Kennisfield, but no, it's gone now because Banshees, when there used to be Banshees in Kennisfield, named one Banshee, but the builders are building houses and stockbridges in Kennisfield, so the Banshees are now going down to Kennisfield in Ross, and well, there's loads of Banshees down in the Dunfield and in Galactus as well. There's the Headless Coachman and the Headless Horseman. The Headless Horseman was probably fighting the Banshee and he died, or he just got his head chopped off. Yeah. Yeah, I was young and I'm running out from Brooklyn, and then, yeah, so he took 4 months, and 4 months, and I'm running, and so he hit me, and he took me all the way here, 3 months. 3 months, probably. You could see someone getting out of blood. So someone getting go through. See someone getting out of take the 4 corners of the wall and say what you mean backwards. People say what he said, and you see someone there under the floor. Alright, then he's scared. He's scared.
It goes on like that for an hour and a half. So I would have it in my Ross, But that's that kind of stuff. And it's funny, again, like someone was saying about Tom and John 20, you learn a song and you're learning who you're learning from. A young lad will tell a story to us, And he talked to his mother and he said, "You didn't tell me a story about something happened to your brother." And she'd tell it the exact same way. And if you record it, him and the mother, 45 seconds, give or take 5 seconds either side. So it's a learned language, you know, that kind of way, and a learned pace. So there's loads of lovely stuff there. Will I carry on?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Come here to me. We do loads of projects, place-based projects, myself and Aileen would do. This is one of my Ross in 2005 where we got young lads to kind of, again, map places in my Ross that had stories connected to them before the place was even, houses were there. The field still, it's funny, the landscape is urban, but still the field structure still existed, and the stories would happen at the crossroads or something that might now be a petrol station. Still there was a story there, you know, and now with the new families coming in, this landscape is alive. So we did that through a newspaper, because again, just looking at different ways of publicly making the information accessible for people. This is back 2005, produced a map. And then sometimes when I'm working with young lads, we try to get them interested in stories. I did a collection in this village on folklore, and we're trying to get young lads interested in stories. So we said, right, how are we going to get young lads interested in stories? So we do things like, we look at what do people in the village look at now. So anyone here from the village who's getting a parish newsletter? Did we get a parish newsletter on a Saturday night for Mass? So we basically got a copy of the real newsletter, right? Said young lads done traipsing and walking, and make fake versions. There's a 3-legged sheep, by the way. It's genuinely a 3-legged sheep. This is in 2006. And the chaps actually made their own version of the parish newsletter and stapled it to the real newsletter and let it out for the laugh, right? So there's the mass chipping. The village was proud. It was mass rocks and they had a mass chipping there. There's a sheep. Just messing for sale stuff. And there's the village nighttime space. Right? And that's the kind of stuff that we go back then maybe a year later and get funded on our project and then make a fake news station. They made a fake news station, I think this is 2007. So I wanted to show you there, like this people can play, and there's like, it's like poker but just for a hen. Look for the card of Christmas, you know. They make up news stories. There's a town that a village that they didn't like, you know. So, it's messed with like a but it's about getting them interested in where they're from, you know. Another village with kids as well, they made their own fake TV station. Well, again, no, I won't show you this, so they had their own version of like a satellite dish, you know, this kind of stuff. The version of Cops. And then there's a kind of knit fest, like that's kind of story and mess and play, and well, it's part of it. It's like, geez, like Tony McGaley writing a song. It's funny, when I was in Donegal in 2006, I was asked to work with the Donegal News. I don't know if anyone's ever heard this, because sometimes I collect stories, and sometimes when I have a chance, we make up stuff and see if we can get away with it, right? So for 2 weeks in the Donegal News gave me the full access to the newspaper. We made up fake court cases and ads, right? Right? I don't know, because I heard about these afterwards, right? It's all done This was in Roscommon. We did it for 4 weeks in Roscommon. I did it, right? This was just the height of the boom, and we just put that. We actually did it for Donegal here as well, for Letterkenny. This is the height of the boom. The amount of weeks that I had, the amount of people ringing up, look at the hardest tiger. No people housing development, right? You know, an exquisite development of 900. I was annoyed at the development was going on, and I was blatant knocking down the villages and building stuff, you know, and half the Dublin moved out to commute from Mullingar to Dublin in the morning. Stupid stuff, right? So we just had a bit of crack like that. Here's the Roscommon County Council Panel Commission. We did the same thing.
J.R. Hogan.
Right? Where was Roscommon? These are online at some stage. We're trying to get them up again on our stage for you. But we actually did one for Letterkenny here as well, right? And,
Demolition of existing towns.
funny enough, I think there is actually a company out called Sherlock Holmes, but I invented it. So we get away with that. So sometimes, so these are 2 pages here. I just said that last night I was going, what am I going to show? Because I didn't want, right? I just wanted to show this. I'll tell you what, I'm going to show you this kind of way of thinking first before we sing. Is that okay for you? Okay. Just settle it, right here, okay. Or unsettle is more so. So that's that kind of stuff. Here, so that's, now and again you do messy stuff, right? But I'm interested, again, a lot of this comes down to what exists and reframe what exists. We build up photo collections of these things for, like, notice for hurling matches and football matches, CDs, we do extra stuff. We would, like, I was in only ordinary everyday things that kind of are part of what we are and how we think and how we behave, right? As an artist, as a visual person. I was in Navan recently, this little traveller girl came up with this. These are the old masks that you get in Ireland still, and she still made up on these masks. Like, you're only working with kids. So you do a lot of photography-based kind of work, collecting stuff. Collecting. This is the yoke I found that my mother had made for hitting the dogs at home, right? And I went back a couple of months later, I should have marked 2 versions of it, right? Okay. And again, it's ordinary as every day. There she is hitting the dog right now. That was a couple of years ago, right? I'm interested in.
How's the dog?
He's getting terrified now. Looking at how we live our lives, looking at our memories, looking at our ordinary homes as museums, looking at dressers. This is my granny's dresser at home in Wexford, right? And you know what? It's not unusual. These people have done these small little houses with very little to amass these things in their lives, like shrines to themselves. In every county you go in the country, north, south, east, and west, you'll have women that amass these dressers. And I work on projects with young lads. There's a classic one. My granny had the typical language of John F. Kennedy and the Pope, but she got rid of the Pope and the cat there instead, right?
Progress.
But little things that are worth very little, but they've got personal stories. And again, it's about that reframe, and these will be presented in exhibitions, photographic exhibitions. So there's a dresser, there's someone else's dresser, a young lady came to me, and here's a man's dresser. So, a man's dresser and a woman's dresser, right? That kind of way of thinking. I looked at, this is about 10 years old again, this photograph is, yeah. Getting young lads looking around their homes. I got connection, looking at doors, horseshoes. Young fella came in one day, another photograph of the door his father made. He worked in the council and he robbed the road sign. By the way, I'm doing this deliberately just to warm us up for the child balance. A lot of project work will be working with people. I worked in a project in Rosslare where people helped me make little things about the village. We did one about quilt pots where people make objects out of ordinary things and how they become serve another purpose. This is about another film we did about the aerials in Wexford that were pointing over the Wales. Like lovely stories that there was a Welsh presenter on S4C, for example. The lads in Tusker Rock had a television. So up in Donegal you probably get English television from across the border. But we used to point over to Wales back in the late 60s and 70s. And probably Dublin did the same. But these lads in Tusker Rock had a television. Shouldn't be picking up English television or Welsh television. But there was a Welsh TV presenter called Iris Jones. Knew the lads were watching it. And every night in Welsh used to always say good night in Welsh and also good night in Irish to the lads out in Tusker Rock. And someone complained about it, you know, and they got to stop doing it. So, and that was just part of that kind of little films, whatever. This is, again, ordinary things. I met a man, and he stood in the one spot for 22 years taking a photograph. I didn't realise he actually charted the development of Rosslare Harbour. Right? Things like that. The way we work is you're with people and around people, and things happen when you're around people. So magic happens, even when you're working on these song projects, when people get together and bang heads, something else happens, right? So, things like that. Other simple things. There's a house in Rosslare, and it's number 1148. And people, there are railway workers' houses, and people believe if you go to Fishguard, you come across number 1147. London and all the way down to Tralee the other way. And again, people believe it there, right? But the houses there are railway houses, so there's maybe some truth in it. Here's another little thing for them. Will I show that? Yeah. Again, a man in Rosslare said to me, you have to get on and film this, because this is happening, this is local folklore. The local authority in Port built this lovely fancy design thing here, but this big pillar was in the way, so when the cars come in, they'd swerve and hit it. So it went on for a couple of years until I went down to film it one day, and I filmed it, sped it up, and stuck, it was actually Philip there from Donegal, did a tune. His name is Dorothy, I can't remember his first name. He's with a man called Valerio at Serge, you know the box there from, and he's not Serge Desnay, yeah. So, are we still all okay, lads, are we? And someone robbed this at Christmas apparently in Turkey, and got about 700,000 hits. I ripped off my credits off it, but if not, I didn't mind, I was delighted, it kind of got showed. But we were translating all the comments, and they all think it's in Romania somewhere, but it's actually that's there. Look at what is in the collection that belongs to us, Irish people, and these people have never been in it before. So we got 6 people up, and we got them to go in and look. The library were brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It was my first kind of time working with them. It was 2009 actually. And we picked 3 projects. One was with the first arrival of the Magpie in the chemistry expert, like Paddy Berry, Paddy was on Paddy Berry. Liz Jeffers told Paddy Berry the exact field the Magpies come into. It was always the same home with the Magpies coming in trouble at the cause in Ireland since they arrived. They arrived in the southern baronies of Wexford, Port and Barby, which were always seen as the English baronies of Wexford, and travelled up to North Wexford. And the North Wexford has 8 of them. And then that kind of, it's like the Magpies spread throughout the rest of the country. Another woman did a project about the Cheney's, the washing up on the beach, little bits of pottery, that kind of stuff. And this is all documented on a website, and we expose people's research. We kind of people wrote diaries about what you need, what you know, when you write down your diaries, you're getting to a place, in that kind of way. And we brought that way of thinking with the song projects. One man who actually showed me them cars, he said to me, see that photograph of me? You ever see this photograph? Man, you've seen this photograph before? Mm. Yeah. He said to me, that's my grandfather there in that door. And he said, that's Mick Kavanagh. And that's Mick Kavanagh, sorry. Mick Kavanagh, and Owl Mick Kavanagh, right? And that's Maggie Kavanagh, and that's Maggie Kavanagh, right? And these photographs were taken in the 1890s in North Wexford at an eviction, the Cool Rainy eviction. I think there were 16 prints. They ended up in Australia, came back to the National Library, Photographic Archive in 96, I think, 5. But it was all this thing, we found this fantastic collection. But the collection is lovely and they're great photographs at the time, but without a human connection, without a real people connection, they're nothing to me in some ways, right? So Mick wanted to kind of set that right. So we basically he kind of showed, this is my family, this is where we came from. So we got a chance to look at the photographs, like there were a lovely collection of photographs to be able to access. Like the clothes were wearing, their boots were their fixed. And he even got to see photographs of his grandfather that he never saw before. So then there was a real connection to what's there. So that was a project called the Magpie's Nest, right? And the library and Dominic Campbell from the Outland said next year we'd like to work on a project, and I said I would. And I kind of said I'd like to work on one, but I'd like to work on one with singers. So we piled stuff. Instead of an Aileen, I said I'll get Aileen on board because Aileen sings. And we contacted loads of singers, Fergus and Jerry and Luke Cheevers. They're mostly Dublin singers because it was easier to get Dublin singers in Dublin. There's a couple of Tim Lyons from Baton was there as well. And we came up with a project called the Wild Bees Nest. The Wild Bees Nest was obviously tipping your hat to Paddy Tunney, but also in Wexford, Kilkenny people called around your Ross Wild Bees, they're called Wild Bees as well. The idea was to get people to sing songs that they would sing normally, but get them to put more flesh on it. And to look at sometimes, because sometimes when we were working with, we used to know as singers as well, Aileen was always, she was always afraid if there's something wrong in the song. She was always worried about changing it, because she was upset about, this is not mine to change. But we kind of said, no, listen, sure, if it's wrong, change it, right? And make it your own by doing that. So basically, we got a concert of about 10 songs, wherever was it? About 10 songs. We put on a concert in the National Library, and we produced a programme. And we were with yourselves then as well. We were with yourselves as well. And we're over it. That's the first time we met.
Yeah.
And we were only finding our own feet as well, I'll be honest with you, what we were working on. And here's Luke Cheese and Tony, that's the archive. And we went to the archive and we put on that concert. Then after the Christmas, we said, we're going to get you to write 10 new songs. And the lads, some of them embraced it, yourself embraced it, but like Luke and all, it's a hard thing to ask them to do, isn't it? And poor Luke, what did Luke say? He started the song in 1959, wasn't it? Yeah. 66, sorry.
The one about the
He said he started the song in 1966 and he finished it in 2010 or 11, whatever it was. But he was trying to get out with the whole time. Can I not do the other one? But he did it at the end, right? And he did a right job, right? They did a really good job. And what we produced was these 10 songs, and then without the Arts Council support, these projects wouldn't have happened. The Wild Bees Nest was supported by the Arts Council. The other ones weren't, probably indirectly through the Outlet. So then we applied to DESH, and we got some money, and we recorded the Wild Bees Nest CD, right? But lovely things for me, or lovely things. We recorded little snippets of it, but even simple things you take for granted. Handwriting. We're also computer, Tim Lyons is a music computer, so he puts up back cornflakes boxes, he puts masking tape over there rather than using Tipex over a line, that kind of stuff. This is his folder first, he keeps in his arse pocket, right? Like Connie's no Luke, but he things that he does, little roads and that kind of stuff. These are artworks in their own right, aside from the song. So we produced a website, obviously part of the project, produced a website and we said we're going to make this available. And we brought the singers down to Enniscorthy as well for little bits of sessions and tours and all that kind of social side that goes with the project, right? It's a Tipperary picnic, isn't it? Yeah. And there's Big Fowler singing on top of Owlert Hill. That was a lovely session in the space on top of Owlert Hill. The eyes are ever in Owlert Hill, lads. The sound there is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And that kind of social side to the whole thing, right? Coming to the house to stay, and Mern was there, and there's all the singers, right? At home. And then we produced a CD. And then after that, that website's live, it's the wildbeesnest.ie. But after that, then the next year again, through with the archive, with the library, and with the Arts Council team is over there as well. We did one called As I Wrote Out, and again the same kind of thing, a shorter turnaround. We got singers to write a new song through a journey that they would have, a physical journey or a mental journey. And again, like Clean, you wrote yours about the Sullivan Bear walk from Kerry Cork to Leitrim. Yeah. And these songs are all up on the line as well, right? And again, it meant visits to Holy Wells and that kind of stuff. There's Larry Joy and Jerry Riley. And sessions afterwards, that kind of stuff. Richard Tunney made that. And there's just people meeting afterwards at home then, right? Then, after that project, I was going to figure out, great ideas come to me in the toilet, lads. We've got 3 children, and it's a great space to go and just get a bit of sanity, right? And then we close the door and go, oh Jesus, no one will bother me here, right? So I think it was March 2 years ago, I came up with this idea. imagine doing a child ballad thing. And I wasn't particularly interested in child ballads, I'll be honest with you, right? But I was kind of interested in, that I knew the songs existed here, right? And I also I was aware that whenever we get people together, I didn't want to do a kind of revival project where people would be singing songs with Scottish dialect accent or English dialect accent. I knew straight away when it come together, we'd make them our own very, very quickly, right? And by then people banging their heads around the table, things would happen naturally, right? So we came up with Man, Woman and Child. I think I phoned Eve Parsons first about this after I was talking to Aileen. And the first project we did was we paired up Aileen, Tim, Roisin, Mick Fowler, Bridget and John, and Eve and Luke. And then this year, just gone, we paired up Grayson and Jim McFarland and Hammy and Sandra and Roisin and Len and Roisin and Fergus. And Jerry O'Reilly did 2 talks at each event as well, and based on each thing on child ballads in Ireland. And there were more songs so that, and more things uncovered as well. And so basically there were 8 concerts over the last couple of years, and we're also down in Limerick there recently. And if you go to the website, you'll see, if you click, say, on John and Bridget, you click in there, you've got audio files of all their songs sung, live, video files, and also the notes. And it just puts it out there, it's free. It's also cheaper to do a CD for us, because we kind of said to ourselves, this is the best way to do this, get good audio, get good video, the best we can to work with that. And that's that child ballad project. What can I say that it was all? Yeah, it was, again, all this magic happens around the table. There's something else happens, there's something else. Yeah. What are you mounting through there for Parsons?
And in the toilet.
And in the toilet. The toilet's a great place, actually. What I've done actually, we're going to actually hear some of the songs without me yapping, right? Is that okay? It's a little time-wise, we're okay. Yeah. What I did yesterday, what Aileen did, actually, will we do this at the end or will we do it at the end?
Do it at the end.
We've actually put all the audio tracks together on one data CD, and there'll be some people getting copies of that later on. We're trying to get copies of it out there. We give copies to the archive anyway for sure, right? Next thing, song project I was working on was, we're working on a project called the Bird Song Project, and there are 33 older singers. Beyond have funded us to do this. It's happening in May. No, I know. You're over 50, you get away with it. And we're looking at songs that are being sung in the Irish tradition that reference bird song. It's a gorgeous project. We've got a concert in Derry, the Ulster concert in Derry, the Connacht one's in Galway, the Munster one's in Coolnessmere and Waterford, the Leinster one, the Wexford one here, the Wexford one's in National Library, and the Dublin one, because there are so many dubs got it. Because that's the thing, there's so many dubs contacted us. I'm looking at poor Tom and Eve there as well, right? But our projects have always been about inclusivity rather than exclusivity. So we have a separate concert for the Dublin singers as well. First, I saw you're in Galway, sure? Yeah, you're in Galway. And that's happening in May. That's called the Bird Song Project, and that's on the birdsongproject.com. There's 1916 Song Project as well, and that's a different one. That's for next year. I think that's really done talking. Oh, actually, come here to me. I want to show you one thing before I go. The dowsing, right?
Yeah.
Right, so this is the dancing of Bojangles with John Joyce.